you're at in your spinning journey, this is appropriate for you. Whether you're just starting or you've mastered all your level 3 and 4 spins, this is a conversation that's open to everybody. So it's very inclusive. So let's take it away. We'll let Ben get started. And I can't wait, a whole hour on spins with the best skating crowd ever.
Well, that's great. And thanks everyone for joining us for the Spin to Win webinar today. And in fact, just to tell you guys a little history of this, this is one of our seminars that we present with our masterclass series with Skating Success. And personally for me, when I'm doing a Spin to Win seminar, it's one of my favorites to do because it is so much fun to experiment now that spins have just become, I mean, just even like thinking about when I skated, you know, there wasn't really criteria back then to go, okay, a spin will be worth this on your technical marker, a spin will be worth this if it's done a specific way, and all the rest of that. But today, you guys, it's just become so creative, so exciting, so much fun to really see an excellent spin being performed. There's nothing like it being a coach. I know, Jadene, I think you'd agree with me. When we do this, it's like we want to see a spin done very well, and there's just nothing like it in our sport right now. Sure, it's jumps, but also a spin that's done with top quality, and we'll go through what that looks like later, and also how that's created is just so much fun to really see, and it's part of our sport that I think's just exploded and become a lot of fun. So I think the Spin to Win Masterclass that we do is personally one of my favorites because it can be wherever you are in spins, we can just pick something up and run with it, you know, work on quality of centric, work on different positions, work on different things. It's just so much fun. And so today when we engage in this conversation, that's where we're going to start. We're going to talk about, first of all, the art of spinning. So what is it that makes a great spin happen? So I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to bring up the Dartfish. And we're just going to start with the first spin that I remember learning. Now I'm going to date myself here, back in 1991 or 1992. The upright corkscrew spin. Okay, and we're going to talk about positions in a little bit, but the upright corkscrew spin was the first one that I learned how to do in my solo and pre-preliminary men. And we have this demonstrator do it right here in front of us. Now, you'll notice when this skater, I'm going to slow this down to about 50% speed here, enters this spin, the biggest trick to learning spinning well is being able to enter it and center the spin immediately right away with that balance point on what we call that ball of the foot. If I just kind of zoomed in here, where I have my zoom tool, and you could just kind of see that ball of the foot balance point kind of just behind the pick of the blade, where you're actually performing a back inside edge in motion. And that's a very unique point, is you're actually spinning on a edge when you do this one. So that's where, when I'm just going to bring this up again here as we go into it, it's being able to control that edge, but obviously do it where it's as small as possible and as balanced as possible, so it doesn't move off the spot. And you can see here too, as rotation increases, the goal is to be able to keep that balance point with control and stability as you maintain the centering and control. So that's in essence the art of spinning, being able to enter it, being able to balance, being able to sustain rotation as rotation increases on the spin without moving off that balance point. So that's an example of that. Now this is what's called an upright spin, a basic upright spin. So
and they also call it a scratch spin in the US.
Well, yeah, they did. And I have a problem with that specific name to say, because I don't think it should scratch. I think what we should hear is a solid edge. We should hear something, but a scratch spin implies that we're too heavy on the pick. And I'm not a big fan of that specific term. I'd like to hear an edge spin. Like I like to hear it when it's just placed nicely on that ball of the foot, and you can kind of just hear that edge rolled in without too much scratching, because again, scratching is one of the things that now we're going to talk about quality. If you hear too much of that, that will slow the spin down and thus affect the grade of execution of the spin. So good point, Jay, but also can we call it the quiet edge spin? Can we do that?
Well, you started the whole conversation saying the art of spinning.
Yeah,
right?
okay,
and so it is an art form to get that sweet spot on the blade and that nice sound, right?
Right. So there's an example of an upright spin just done, very basic. But again, when we talk about it now, it's having that balance point and obviously getting more sophisticated with your positions that you're going to be using. So what I'm going to do now is talk about maybe the front foot. You saw that was the back inside that that skater was performing. And then what we're going to try to do is talk about that, the back foot, where the skater will now perform an outside edge, okay? And typically this is where the majority of the rotations on the front of the back foot are going to be. It's going to be on the back inside on the front foot, on the back outside on the back foot. Majority. There will be sometimes we flip an edge, but you even see the skater here. They're doing the exact same thing, but they're on that back outside edge of the blade, and thus just behind that pick, and are able to, as the rotation increases, keep it centered and keep it balanced and very, very stable as they continue the rotation. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just show that again full speed so everybody can have an understanding of that. But really what great spinning is no matter what position you're taking during this, it's being able to sustain and do that. And any skater beginning, I know that, you know, where were you on here, that took a long time to be able to master well. That's why in Canada anyway, where I'm talking about, you know, our STAR program, we have that BUSP that I just reviewed up to STAR 1, 2, 3, 4, to be able to learn how to do that, to be able to learn how to spin on that back foot. It's very important fundamentally that skaters learn how to be able to balance that and again, increase their rotation and balance and stay there. So that's that art of spinning in a nutshell there too. And centering has a huge amount to do with that, being able to stay on that spot, being able to balance on it, being able to rotate. And again, those two basic positions there and upright just shows an example of, okay, that's what spinning in essence is all about. Can the skater do that well on the basic one and then move to more sophisticated positions? So I'm
I just want to add a quick thing to that. I know that a lot of you as skaters and as coaches, you're working off the ice right now, obviously doing different types of exercises, but anything that's working on your balance, ballet, yoga, anything that you're balancing on one foot and really aligning your joints is going to help you when you come back to the ice and you're going to be centering. And to your point, Ben, I think centering is a huge part of your skating success when it comes to your spins.
For sure, for sure. And we'll talk about why a little bit later on too. But what I'll dovetail into now is let's talk about our spin positions, okay? And let's talk about what the basic spin positions are. We'll show some examples. And then we'll go from there. But here's just another fun part. And this is where, you know, this is from the ISU technical manual. And as coaches, I know you're going, okay, I get it, Ben. I bring this up every day. You know, I'll bring it up every day. This is what we do, okay? Because this is where skating has gotten so much better, is that the criteria is so solid today. It's so much better than it was 20 years ago. And now with, you know, 20 years of this new system being in, it is just so good that we have such clear criteria to go back to all the time. These are the rules. This is in black and white, and this is what makes a lot of the spins as good as they are today. Is just this kind of criteria. But let's start off with it too. So this is really interesting. When I started reading this again after a little bit of review, a spin that has no basic position with 2 revolutions will receive no value receive no level and no value. However, a spin with less than 3 rotations is considered a skating movement and not a spin. So right there, it's very clear cut that it must have a basic position with 2 revolutions to receive a value in our scale of values. So that's a very interesting point, very clear criteria. So this is another great point here. You know, the minimum number of revolutions required in a position is 2 minimum without interruption. And I'm going to go back to that a lot where it talks about without interruption. That's a very big one when we're talking about spinning today. In case this requirement is not fulfilled, a position is not counted. Variations of positions of the head, arms, free leg, as well as fluctuations of speed are permitted. Now, the interruption thing is a very big one too, is because the goal of being a great spinner is to be able to hold positions and obviously not, you know, interrupt or lose balance. It's being able to plant them there immediately and sustain them during the course of the spin. So that's a very, very important bullet point to mention there too, and we'll talk about that as we move forward. So let's talk about these 3 basic positions. Let's go to camel, and I think everybody knows what camel is, and it's funny. I think, you know, it got its name an interesting. Gustav Lucy, who had the skaters where this was invented, he said he had a skater from Australia named Campbell. So somehow the name Campbell and camel, it kind of blended into one, and I guess that's what we call it. But the definition of camel today is again black and white here. The free leg backwards with the knee higher than the hip level, right? So that's very important to note too. It's that knee level, because then what will happen is generally the skating leg will be higher too. However, layback bailment and similar variations are considered as upright. So a very good point there too is that the camel is always that free leg backward with the knee higher than the hip level. And just to go to an example here of I'm just going to share the Dartfish. Why don't we just take a look at a basic camel performed, and what we'll do is we'll bring up a developing skater learning a camel spin, okay? Because, you know, it's obviously good to see the best of it, but sometimes it's good to see a developing skater work on a camel spin. All right? And what we'll do is we'll slow it down a second and kind of bring up that key point that we just talked about on the definition of it, is when the skater goes in, again, the leg back, kind of doing what we call that camel hook to the toe, and you want to immediately plant yourself in camel position as you rotate, and obviously sustain the basic position for those minimum 2 to get it counted, but also 3 if it's going to be a solo spin. So let's take a look. It's that knee to hip level. So you see on this particular example that skaters attained that. So right now that's at approximately 100 degrees. Like if we did this here too, you know, you can see, okay, find that knee level at about 90, 95. But this particular one you can see does meet the criteria, and also doesn't interrupt. Like you don't see the free leg going up and down. It does sustain the basic position during the course of rotation. And that's important because, again, what you'll get is you'll be able to get the code of CSP if that was just the basic spin performed. So there's an example there of what the camel position does, and that's what you'd want to do, is be able to sustain all of those rotations in position and just basically plant yourself there for the basic position. Obviously working on speed and other things too. So that's cool. How are we doing, Jay? We got anything coming in yet?
We don't have any questions yet, and I want to remind people that you can absolutely at any time throw a question into the Q&A section. We did have a little comment. Mackenzie saw herself in the background of the video, and I did see you too, and Mo, but you were so cute, like so little. I just love those moments. But I just want to ask you a question, Ben, because I think that it's really important that you did a developmental skater and showing that in the video. But how much practice did it really take to get a strong, I think that was about 4 rotations, I wasn't really counting, but a strong camel spin like that? Like, I know we worked on it for quite a bit.
Well, and I know a lot of developing skaters will attest to this. It takes hours of entering that camel hook, planting yourself in the position, making sure there's no interruption. It takes repetition, repetition, repetition. In fact, what we're even going into now is the balance of the spin time versus jump time. For us as coaches, and I know coaches are out there, it's now kind of, I would say it's almost 50-50. I would go, you know, because when you were taking a look at the points that we're getting on some of these spins today, it really has come to that. So lots of mileage on this to get it up to quality. Of course, you know, that was a slow example, but through the duration of learning, obviously your speed will increase as well as the quality. So that's another one there too. So that's camel. And again, we'll get into more DVs as we move forward here. But why don't we move to sit position? We'll have a little conversation about the other basic position, and let's bring up this this definition again. And this is where again, you guys, the criteria is so good today, right? Sit, the upper part of the skating leg at least parallel to the ice, right? So that's very clear cut. So we want to make sure that when we take a look at this here, we'll review on the Dartfish what that looks. And you know what, just for the sake of it too, I'm going to use the same skater, because I think it's important to show a developing skater learn the basic positions, and these will be called level basic. So that's the sit spin being performed. And then what I'm going to do one more time is slow that down, and we'll bring that angle tool out again to show that upper part of the skating leg parallel to the ice. So basically the skater here has attained that. So let's do this one here. And typically, yeah, you'll see it around that 90, right? Because it's kind of a square box that you'll see, right? Because that will be the definition of that. And again, uninterrupted. You don't want to see it go up, down. You want to see it down and planted in that position where it's just going to remain there doing the duration of rotation of that particular spin. And just aesthetic things too, like me personally, and this is just an aesthetic, I like to see the back reasonably straight. You know, I don't like to see hunching over. You know, the arm position, you can see this one is in front. There's another one that I might show here where let's just show, she kind of grabs this front leg, and this is, again, a basic position, but it's good to just take a look at it here as I think it's on the screen, right? Can you see this one here? Hang on a sec, I'm just gonna bring it up.
I can see it, yeah. And
okay, perfect.
This is an older video, and it's
this is an older video
style per se as well.
Yeah, and I mean, can everybody kind of see that, right? So that's just grabbing the free leg there. Again, aesthetically pleasing because you can see that back reasonably straight. Things like that, right?
I would also like to mention that this turned out free leg is beautiful on both examples.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, let's just review that. I think it goes full speed there. That's lovely. And again, good centering, right? And it just goes to the, and obviously you want to do it on the front and the back foot, right? So you'll be able to perform that.
Well, I know you're going to come to this later, but in the GOE and in the judges watching the style of the spin, how it looks does matter. I mean, they have a long sustained moment to watch you spin around. And if the position isn't beautiful, then it does affect your mark, right? Well,
and that's the thing too, is, you know, you think about the jumps too, right? And I mean, you know, double axles, half a second, that's it, right? Spin, hey, we have 15, 20 seconds. So, you know, thinking about that aspect too, there's a lot of opportunity there for you to maximize some revenue on your sheet and GOE the situation. So that's another part of it. But that, you know, let's go back to our criteria. We're having fun so far with the basic positions. And you know what, upright, yeah, that was pretty obvious. I showed you one at the beginning of the session today with the two on the front and the back foot. That's the upright position. Any position with the skating leg extended or slightly bent, which is not a camel position. So pretty clear cut, and you know, great criteria, and obviously good to follow. And again, the criteria has never really been better for what we've been working on today. So I think it's excellent. So how are we doing, Jay? With anything question-wise?
We're doing great. We did have one question. I kind of asked for a little clarification, Jeff, but I'll try to ask it. Maybe Ben will just jump on it. The way you worded it was when you go into the spin for any one of them, you go into an H position, right? And the way I'm reading that, tell me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but no, for a camel, you would not start in that H position. You would end, but not start in that. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, for a camel, you want to plant it right away. For a sit, get into the sit right away. For a BUSP, yeah, we'd start in an H position. We'd do that just to start centering it. Yeah, that's a good question, though. Very, very good question.
Yeah, and I know Nicole's still typing, so we'll let you still type, Nicole, and get us your question.
For sure. So what we'll do now is once we've gotten those basic positions established, we kind of understand that. We can move into what we call DVs. And this is where spinning today, you guys, has just exploded, because what it is now is there's different categories for us to obviously increase sophistication, increase difficulty, and also increase overall quality of spins, which is a really fun conversation to have, and something where after a skater's max those basic positions and really can plant the sit, plant the camel, plant the upright in a really, really good quality speed imbalance, then we can talk about, okay, what can we do to make it more sophisticated and obviously increase the level of difficulty within the categories that do allow that. I mean, I'm in Canada right now, so I'm just going to say, you know, our development level basic levels are kind of our pre-juvenile, juvenile. We don't add the levels yet because we want the skater to really be able to perform those basic positions to up to quality level. But our competitive U16 pre-novice is maxed at level 3. So now what we can do is we can start to add some of these DVs, which we're allowed to attempt in some of these level basic competitions that we do have. But it's very important the skater knows how to do the basic positions. Very important. So just want to throw that out there too. So
100%.
Anyway, so why don't we, let's continue the conversation. We're doing okay, Jay?
We're doing okay. We do have a few more questions, but okay. I think it's smart if we just go into the difficult variations first. Then we'll do a little pause for some questions, okay?
Okay, sounds really good. So why don't we do that? And here's where it gets, the conversation's really good. So why don't we do this now? Here's, this is from the same document where we take a look at camel, sit, upright, lay back. And we also have one more category I didn't really talk about before, which is non-basic positions. And that's one that it's not in a camel or a sit or an upright. It's slightly different. I might show an example of that. Okay, but really when we're talking about those 3 basic positions, camel, sit, upright, for us to get a full combo spin points-wise, we have to have all of those exist for those minimum to minimum in each position for us to get full point value for that. So that's very important to mention, is that the non-basics can be used, but the basic positions are very, very important to have in a full spin. So here's the first one. We're going to talk about camel forward, and that's the shoulder parallel to the ice, all right? But it must be, again, difficult, so you can kind of grab your free leg. You can do, change your head. You can do something like that. Camel sideways, so that it's all about the shoulder line and the body corp, right? So you see how it's the shoulder line twisted to vertical position, and we have camel upright. We have shoulder line twisted to more than a vertical position, right? So that's where you're really twisting upright. Let's take a look at sit. We have SF, so we've got the sit, the free leg forward, and typically you can see a lot of flexible ones on this. Whether we do, I'll show some examples a little bit later on. Sit sideways, typically the broken leg one that we see, where the free leg's to the side, and the SB and the sit behind. Okay, so those are the three different categories of sit. And we have three different categories of upright. We've got the UF, so we've got the upright front, torso leaning forward. We've got the US, which is the upright straight or sideways, torso leaning straight up or sideways. And we've got the UB, the upright Bielman position. And we've got, actually, what's interesting here is the UL, the upright layback. That is an upright position, okay? Because again, the free leg, the leg that you're doing the spin on is upright. So that's technically an upright. And of course, we've got our MVP. Our MVP is our non-basic position there too. So,
so Ben, at a competition, yeah, how devastating is it to watch a skater do a difficult camel, a difficult change of foot, a difficult sit, and then forget they're upright and get to level one?
Absolutely tragic, unfortunately, there too. Yeah.
You guys, you need one of each.
it's really challenging too. So it's kind of one of those things that, yeah, you want to be able to do this. Now, I'm not sure just the camel part here. This is just going to be, can you see my screen, Jay, okay here? Am I on with the video? Not video yet. You need to share the other page. We're still seeing your category. Okay. See, I'm learning. There we go. Now
in real time, there's a camel. There we go.
Right. So this is an example, if everybody knows, and just taking a look at it, this is an example of a CF, okay, because it's going to be camel forward. And when you see this skater grab, she'll grab, and she'll perform that camel forward. You see? So it's actually what Jadene and I call it, is it the diamond position, right? We call it that? Yeah. And
well, we call it the diamond. To me, it looks like a diamond when I watch it. And yeah, for this skater, we always wanted to just be playful and fun with our naming, even though it is a camel forward, and she knows that. But we call it the diamond because she's very flexible, as you can tell. She has lots of different camel variations, so we have different fun names for them.
Right, and you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just go through some of the ones in the document, because there's so many different examples of that. But what we'll do is we'll go to the handbook, and you can see. Anytime you guys have a look at these, it's really good to see, obviously, a picture of it too. So let's see, here's our CF. So there's a couple of different examples. You know, Julie did that one there. We just showed. We've got the camel side, and you're noticing here it's the core twist, right? So it's more to the side, and you'll see the CU. You really see the skater crank on that, right? Like you see them crank that torso all the way over. And remembering too that when we do see that the skater does have to do the minimum 2 rotations in that position uninterrupted, right? If not 3. I mean, obviously you do more, that will increase your GOE and make it more obvious for the TS to recognize, for the technical specialist to recognize. But
something
anyway,
to mention here, Ben, that is really important is when the skater is in the process of grabbing for that leg, or in the process of the donut getting into the position, that's not counting towards that uninterrupted position. So you have to get there, and then when you're fully in your position, you're at 0. And then you're holding for that 2 or 3 interrupted or more. But I think that's really important, skaters, like just to remember in the back of your mind when you're practicing or even visualizing your programs at home.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Jay. Okay, very good point. Really holding the positions, obviously, you know, uninterrupted as much as possible during the duration of the rotation. Big time. Okay, so that's camel. And then obviously we take a look at sit. You know, you got your SF. So that's a very common one that we see right here, is that SF where the head is down to the knee. You know, we've got SF core twist, so you can really twist your core to the side. And we've got, you know, SF where it's say a grab of the free leg there. So different examples. You also have that one where it's a pancake, so the free leg can be twisted in and planted in that. So that's another one. You've got the SS, so the sit sideways. And this one actually was really interesting the last couple of years. It's got to show either some core drop to the knee or some core twist. You can't just be in a basic 6 side anymore. That changed a couple of years ago. They wanted to make it a little bit more sophisticated. So that's where you see the first example here, where her core is twisted a little bit more. You have to make it a bit more difficult like that to be able to get the DV for it. And
but
here
Ben,
is
sorry to interrupt you. I think that it's really true that difficult variation, that's the whole point. It should be difficult to get more points. So I always tell skaters, I'm like, don't be upset if it's harder, because that's the point. That's why you're getting more points for it.
No, for sure. And we've got the SB, the sit behind. We can obviously see, and the very common one is that girl in the black. That's usually what we see with the SB. These other ones are pretty neat to see. I've seen a few of them, but that's a very common one to see, is that sit behind there too. And other examples of that NBP we talked about, the upright, here we go, upright forward, kind of that A-frame one. That's very, very common. We see that. Upright straight or sideways. Typically you see that free-legged to the side, a grab, or even a cross-foot spin. That's done on 2 feet on flats, and that's an upright straight. So that's a US, that's that category. And we have the upright Beelman, right, where you can obviously see some examples of the Beelman spin, thanks to Denise Beelman, who invented that for us. And we have UL, upright layback, okay, along bottom here. And there's some examples of those, that NBP position. You know what, and the non-basic, I did find one today where I thought it was interesting to view. And I'll just share the screen on one. I found an NBP, because this one isn't usually used a lot, but you can definitely use it for some features here. So Jeff's gonna do a camel, he's gonna switch his edge, and that's a camel side. But you see here, he's not really in a camel, a sit, or an upright. That's a non-basic. So see that? That's kind of a unique, and it's difficult because it shows opcore, it shows flexibility, and he's not in a camel sit or an upright. So that's an example of an NBP position. So just want to.
So Ben, we have kind of a cool question that dovetails into exactly what you're talking about right now. So Nicole is asking, where is the balance point on the blade during the A-frame difficult variation? Okay. So let's talk about A-frame.
Yeah, let's talk about A-frame too. And the funny thing is talk about A-frame and where it was actually a spin that I learned later in my career, and honestly made friends with that particular position, because all of a sudden old dogs like me had to learn new tricks, and we were doing new stuff because it was worth something. It never been worth anything before. So
I'm going to throw you under the bus here. You were 25 and you learned it.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. But anyway, let's talk about that. And maybe what we'll do is we'll share that, bring that up, just because that is one of our questions at time here. And I'll just go to spins, and let's do that. And this was one of my change combo spins. So the question goes to, where's the balance point on it? Is that correct? Okay, that's well, correct. Guess what?
So he's asking, when you fold forward, where are you balancing on your blade?
Okay, well, here's the what we call the UF, upright forward. And guess what? You're balancing in that exact same balance point that you are on your basic upright. Exact same balance point. That's what's really interesting about it. No matter what kind of difficult variation we're taking, you're balancing on that exact same balance point as you perform that difficult variation.
Now, to give a little more detail, when you felt that balance point, like for me, I always feel like the skater's leg that they're standing on has to be very straight, so that they're really extending up through the hips. Yes. And leaning forward and folding at the waist and finding that new balance point over top of that blade. Is that correct for you when you felt it?
Absolutely. And that's why this, they call it difficult variations, or why it's worth more, is because as you make the transition from position to position, it becomes sophisticated to be able to sustain that balance when doing that too, right? So there's a huge method to this also, where it's like, yes, the balance point is going to be the same, but when you make the transition there, it's maintaining that balance point and obviously maintaining the speed of rotation. Thus why we give it more points to be able to do that. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love how in your video, it's very clear that you're also holding your leg to the side. So you're making sure that your balance is 100% on the skating leg and you're not being pulled with the free leg down. Because I've seen a lot of skaters attempting the A-frame and getting that pull down because they're not putting all their weight over onto that skating side.
Well, and you know what, the A-frame is just an example of one UF. I mean, there's some really cool ones that skaters have come up with where the free leg is behind. You know, you'll see that, and they'll do, there's some really cool examples that I've seen out there now, and this is what's really cool. It just adds so much more creativity in regards to each category, right? Because there's creativity with CF, there's creativity with UF, there's creativity with SF, there's a whole bunch of really cool things that you can be able to do creatively. So that's neat. Yeah. So anyway, why don't we do this? Well, Jay, how are we doing question-wise? We doing okay?
We're doing great, but I'm going to put a poll out to the group
We're doing a poll.
before we answer some more questions, because it's kind of
poll
fun.
time.
Because now we've done all the different positions, all right? So we're going to put it out, and hopefully it works. Hopefully you guys can see it. Don't worry, your answers are anonymous. So we won't know if you don't like practicing a certain position, but what is your favorite spin position to work on? What do you love to do? I'll leave that poll up for another minute or so. And okay, while we're letting people answer that, Anne Milton had a question here. I'm just gonna read it out. Often I choreograph a program and find I have not left enough time for the spin as the spin develops and end up with it rushed. Can you at some point discuss allowance for duration of different spins? Do you want me to take this one, Ben, or what do you think?
Why don't you grab that one? Because you're the choreographer here. You're the expert. I just work here. So
yeah, right. This is a really, really good point. So I will be totally honest. I have timed spins. I literally take my iPhone out and I watch the skater and I press the timer. And I get them to do it, and I hope that it's not their best version of the spin, because if it takes them a little longer, it's more realistic of what's in a run through. And the longest CCOSP combination spin with change of foot that I had to choreograph was 18 seconds long. So that really, really, really made me think about the music, the phrasing, and slow down and try to figure out where I wanted to be with that. A flying sit spin, let's say you're looking at an average between like maybe 8 and 9 seconds. A really, really medium paced one might go to 10 seconds. But the other thing I would think about is not only just timing your skaters and how long it takes them to do their spins, but also how long does it take them to get in and out of the spin? Because oftentimes it's not actually the spin itself that's kind of stuffed into the music, it's the entrance and the exit. So I try to actually shorten that a little bit if I can and make a quicker entry and exit so that I don't take up a lot of time in the sort of getting ready for the spin. So we work a lot on different entries for spins, simple entries, quick, cool stuff, and also coming out of the spins without doing a really big wind up and finish. Ben, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think it's great. And the thing is, it's a very good question because, like I said today, and that's why when we go into now maybe our GOE stuff, when we talk about grade of execution and the bullets for it, right, and we talk about speed of rotation, obviously the faster you're going to be able to spin, the less time it's going to make for requirements. Thus, you want to, you know what I mean? Like that's where, you know, an 18-second spin, could we get that to 16 by increasing speed? I don't know. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, we try to do that. Anyway.
100%. So we have the poll results. Okay. Are you guys excited to know? All right. In fourth place is the upright spin. Only 11 people. Or sorry, 11%. 11%. Wait, 71 people respond, by the way, so thank you.
Wow.
In third place is the intermediate position. 13% like to do that.
Good.
Yep. And in second place by only a fraction is the sit position at 46%. And in first place, the camel is the winner of the day. 49% of you, which is almost half of you, like doing that the most. I am surprised, actually.
We've got a lot of camel lovers out there. That's fabulous. We're going to be seeing some good spins. I'm loving that. So
I love it too.
A good one.
I love it too.
Well, that's fabulous. Okay. Well, anyway, so why don't we dovetail that? We talked about some DVs. So maybe show an example of that at the end. And try and remember those DVs, guys, because what I want to do is maybe do a quiz at the end of the poll and see if you guys can recognize what categories go into a CCOSP that I'll show you guys on the screen. So we'll do that. I think we'll get this. We'll talk about the GOE, the GOE, right? It's all about the GOE. So let's bring up this screen. And this is another document that all coaches are going to know. Yep, we got it, you know, because we're in here all the time. And that's one of the advantages of having the Dartfish at the boards and obviously a computer, because you can bring this stuff up at any time. So just so we know, here's our spins, our codes. You know, we're looking at USP, that stands for upright spin. We're talking about LSP, that's layback spin. These are the codes. CSP, camel spin. And you guys, you see that little B beside each one? That means basic, okay? So that means just when I showed that corkscrew spin, that would be a USB 1. Right? And that would be, you know, obviously the backspin would be category there. It's worth a point if it's done at base value. And we've got CSP, we've got SSP, and we've got all the basic positions here. Obviously, you know, increasing the levels with multiple DVs done on it, level 1, 2, 3, and maximum at 4.
So just one little thought for the audience here, just because I know we have lots of different levels of skaters.
Yes.
Whatever level you're at will dictate how many levels you can go into the spin. So
Sure.
Your coach will know if you're juvenile, you're only up to level basic with your spins, and which ones you can do variations and not. So just remember that depends on what level you're skating and competing.
For sure. And let's just take an example of a CSP. Let's do that, the Camel Spin, which everybody's favorite anyway, right? So let's do that. And so let's talk about base value. The base value of a Camel Spin, if it's done with 3 rotations, because if it was done a solo spin, it has to have just those 3 rotations there, uninterrupted, in the basic position with that knee higher than 90. And if it was done at base value, it's worth what an axle is, a 1.1. Okay, so not a bad source of revenue, really. An axle and a Camel Spin worth the same at base value. But again, let's just say we have some bullets for criteria, which we'll talk about, where, you know, it may have some more increase of positive dividends in here. We can go to the GOE plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, you know, almost a 50% dividend here. We can get that in the positive territory. Or, you know, let's say we had a little bit of issues down over here and we have to go, okay, you know, so it doesn't have to be worth 1.1. It can be worth the surplus or the deficit. I personally go for surplus, me personally. But that would be, you know, that's how that's done within our scale of values. So, you know, each spin here, and we'll talk about maybe the basic ones, and we'll talk about, you know, the combos and things like that too, has its own reference point value, but again, maximizing the GOE. So you might go, okay, what's the criteria for GOE, right? And criteria, you guys, it's so good. We're in a sport now where the criteria is so good, okay? And why don't we go here first, where we'll talk about deficits, okay? Which we don't want, but at least if we're aware of them, we can try to avoid them. Does that make sense? Can everyone see this on my screen here? Spins. So what we've got is we've got spins. So this is for minus GOE, a deficit position. A fall, well, that's pretty obvious. We get -5. Now, the thing is, though, obviously it would have to have the recommended criteria of at least the 3 rotations in the basic position and then fall, right? Because if it didn't do that, it would be worth nothing. It just wouldn't exist because the criteria was not there for the caller to give the code of the CSP at 1.1. So if it doesn't meet the basic criteria, it doesn't exist, and it's a 0, which, how many times have I seen this, you know, the flying spin do that, and it's like, oh no, you know, I mean, I remember, you know, back in my career, I was skating a clean short once, and it was great. I was a triple axel, double toe, triple axel, missed the flying camel, so that would have been a 0, you know, like, it's just stuff that happens, but that's what would have happened in that particular situation. So we have a touchdown with the free footer hands, and that's, again, depending on the severity of it, could go -1 to -3. So that's a 10% to 30% deficit. You know, poor fly, you know, we're talking about -1 to 3. Incorrect takeoff or landing on a flying spin, we're talking about -1 to 2. And traveling, here's a big one where it's uncentered. You could go, you know, -1 to -3, loss of balance. So it depends on the severity of it, but there's criteria to go, okay, if that does happen, you could see that on your sheet. Poor, awkward, unesthetic position, -1 to 3. Slow reduction of speed, -1 to 3. So you guys kind of understand, you know, less than required rotations, which is a big one too. So the code may exist, but we want to, you know, for example, in our categories, we like to see minimum 5 rotations. Well, if it did 4, you could expect to see the code exist, but again, a dock on the grade of execution, okay, because it didn't meet the minimum requirements. Unbalanced number of evolutions, we're talking about a, you know, a -10% dividend. So we're talking about that too. Everybody got that? How we doing okay, Jay?
We are doing well. There's some awesome questions in our little Q&A box too. And I don't know when you want to move there, but I love just reviewing all the different ways that you can actually look at, I know you can look at this like a minus, but you can actually look at this, how can I make my spin better?
For sure.
Right? So
for sure.
Pretty cool.
Well, now we're going to talk about bullets, okay? And I always talk about bullets because bullets are very good for increasing revenue, okay? And it's all about maximizing the revenue on your spins as far as I'm concerned. So let's talk about bullets for the GOE plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or getting into a surplus position. Now, here's the criteria. We want good speed and acceleration during spin. Good, okay? We want that to happen. We want good, clear, controlled positions, i.e. height, air, landing position, flying spins. And this is a big one. And this is one that is a huge criteria here. We want the effortless throughout. Now you see everyone here how this is in bullet points. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so obviously that would be 4 plus 3, but also these bullets in bold must be there before the 4 and 5 are even considered. Does that make sense to everybody here? So those 3 bullets must be there for even a 40% or 50% dividend to be even considered on the GOE scale. All right, so that's where we always go back to it. And again, you take a look at, you know, for obviously for +1, it's 1 bullet. For +2, 2 bullets. For +3, 3 bullets. So we're always trying to, again, maximize our revenue. And what is that? I always find the effortless is the big one. It's just got to look like it's just completely effortless, completely fast. You know, obviously speed is going to play a huge important part in it. But if it's effortless, where it looks like, wow, it just, you know, when you see that spin and it's just, woof, it just blows your mind. That's where you can go, okay, fine, there's a potential for the 40% or 50% dividend. So.
Absolutely. I think the fun exercise while you're not able to do your spins, right, because we're off the ice, would be to take an old video of a spin from competition or practice, take this list and just watch it and think of the 1 bullet. Did I get that or not? How close was I? 2nd bullet. Did I get that or not? Was it effortless? Oh, that part was effortless, but ooh, I look a little bit like I'm struggling there. It's kind of you put your judge hat on a little bit, but I think it's helpful because then you can think of your spins as far as quality of execution, which I know you talk about a lot, Ben.
Well, and you know what, you guys, I have to give credit to officials because officials have to have that in their brain and they have it on their screen and go, effortless, and no, +4, they have to hit it, right? Like it's a lot of being able to see it and recognize it, but also going, criteria is sound, and criteria, did it have good speed? Did it have good center? Did it have good that? Was it effort? Yeah, +4, boom. So that's, and it can be any spin. I've sometimes seen level basic spins that I go, wow, that had every criteria being able to go. Why wouldn't I get that plus? I can't think of any other, you know, so we have that. And that's it. Again, that's why the quality of that too is huge. So that's the conversation there too.
Absolutely. So, I can't believe we're here. It's 12:42. We are flying through this session. So I'm going to get to a few questions quickly, Ben. Uma's asking, is the balance point always on the ball of the foot for spins? So this is kind of a trick question. I'll let you answer first.
Okay. Generally speaking, when we talk about, and maybe I'll show a screen here, and we'll go to this too, is in some of basic camel where it's there, you see how it doesn't deviate off that ball of the foot, like it stays there, right? It just stays there, okay? Now, there's a different example, and I want to show that's a non-basic position. We used to be able to do this, okay? This is back, you know, in 06. Now, you see there's a change of edge. That's where the balance point will change, okay, is when the skater performs a change of edge on it. Typically, what happens there is the balance point, if you do a change of edge spin, moves more to the kind of middle back as the skater can do that. Now, it's generally, this is something I can never really do that well personally, but I have some skaters that can really do it. And they say, yeah, it just feels like it moves slightly back a little bit there. So you're pushing either the forward or the back inside edge doing that. And again, a little bit more sophisticated and difficult to do. But generally speaking, yes, in terms of if you're just doing the back inside and then you're just doing the back outside with the basic positions, it's going to be on that ball of the foot. Yes.
Absolutely. Always on the ball of the foot unless you do a change of edge. But great question, because it's a weird thing to think about because you're just spinning and not necessarily feeling it. All right, we're going to go to another question.
We got some ones here.
Tips for finding time. Sorry, Rory, I should have said. Thank you for being on again. You're always on our webinars, so we appreciate you. Tips for finding time to explore and discover positions from which to build the best spin options for each skater. There are just so many options and seldom a one size fits all for spins. And I agree with you 100%. Ben, what are your tips and thoughts, first of all, on how to find the best fit for each skater?
Okay, well, one of the things that's been really fun that I've been able to have is obviously, you know, the masterclass is a great way to do that because where we have the seminar, and this is something that we can do as a group, right? You know, if there's maybe time in the day where you have a bunch of skaters, you go, you know what, guys, let's get creative with this. Let's talk about SF today. How many SFs can we get? Try it out. You know what, let's do camel upright. Can you do that? work on our change of edge today. Let's work on that's what's nice. Maybe it's 15 minutes at the end of a session, bring some skaters in, we have a good time. You know, we figure out things, we try and put ourselves in these positions, and we do that. I think that's one way of doing that, which is great, is a group, because we can all have fun together. This is a creative process where, hey, you know what I learned today was the upright forward, because she could do one and I figured that out. And you know, that's a really good place to do that, I find, is in group format. And I don't know about, I coach it, I love it. And the skaters, they seem to really enjoy that too. So that's just one way. Hopefully that helps out. But
Absolutely. I think one other thing that I mean, obviously right now we're doing so much off ice, but I've had many sessions off ice where I'm working with someone in a group or alone, and watching their flexibility and going, whoa, okay, they're flexible in their back more than they are in their leg. Okay, great. So maybe they can do a donut position, or maybe they can do a layback, whereas someone else may be very flexible in their hamstrings. So I'm going to link that to, okay, well, we can grab and do an upright side. So I'm trying to think past what I can see them already being able to do, and where can I go with this, or where can I take that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It does. And one of the other things too, I just want to mention this as well, is those categories, and this is what happened a few years ago, is one category can be only done once per program, right? So all of a sudden, the more variety in categories that we do get and are able to do on both feet, and you know, that would open up the whole world, because let's say, you know, I've got this, and we've already used the UL, I got the upright layback over there, and I've got but where's I got an SF. Oh, what about an SB? I need that, but she's on the back foot. You know, so you have to really try it. Both feet, do as many categories as possible the skater can learn, because now it's like, yeah, the SB can only be done once per program, right? So, which actually didn't need to be. I remember I had a skater once, and we could do the 8 rotation every single spin. So the 8 here, 8 here. That's over. That was fun, but that's all gone. So anyway, that was a lot of fun.
Rory, I hope that's really helpful. I think another thing that I do, I've never even really said it out loud, so you guys are like, this is the inside information, but I always have what I'm working on with the skater, and then I have like the future spin that we're working on. So they're always working on kind of what's next, like maybe next year, so that when I get to next year, it's not like, oh, what are we doing now? You know, it's especially at those developmental levels when they're not allowed to do variations yet, there's always a backup spin that's like your future spin that we're working on and ahead of time. So we're not kind of in crunch time. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, what else? What kind of exercises can be helpful to train your balance right now, except ballet and yoga?
Wow, that's a good question.
I mean, to say except ballet and yoga, I mean, don't discredit the ballet and yoga.
I think, you know what you can do, honestly, with situations like this, do your basic positions off ice. See if you can do that. Hold camel.
Absolutely.
Hold sit. You know, do your upright position. Try them, okay? And, you know, some people using those spinners, there's been some cool videos online about that. I mean, I personally I slipped off those things. I wasn't very good at them, but I think you can try. If you can learn how to do it, great. Here's a time to do that. But just hold those basic positions as much as you can. Maintain them. You know, do good sit, upright, camel. Do as much as you can. Balance point. I think that's something that you can do. Do a camel forward. Do camel upright. Do some stuff off the ice right now and keep your balance. I think that would be a way of maximizing that personally. Just right now.
Here's the other thing. I guarantee you, if you don't have a strong core, you will not be able to balance in your spins and your crazy positions you want to do. So core work, and that is very applicable off ice. Doing as much core work, I think, as you can is, you know, Ben, I don't know what you think, but you were definitely strong in your core when you were learning those different spin positions.
Yeah, it was just the flexibility, but I worked on it. Anyway, it's all good. So anyway, maybe what we'll do, Jay, is we'll show that combination spin, okay?
Yes, go for it.
What we'll do is I want everyone, now that you're educated and you're smart on this too, I'm going to show a CCOSP. This is a combination spin with a change of foot. But what I'd like the audience to do, we're going to run a poll with this one. I'll show this full speed first. I want to see if you can name the categories of positions that this particular skater, Caitlin Osmond, is going to do. I want to see if you can name them. I'll do it full speed here. And then I will slow it down to 50%, repeat it again. And I want to see if everyone can identify the categories with the poll that we're going to run.
So really pay attention, guys, and then we'll put it out in a poll and see if you can get all the categories.
Right, so the CCOSP, that's a combination spin with a change of foot. Camel sit and upright must exist for full point value. And I'm going to slow this down to 50% speed. So this is the first position. Just to go into the second position. Got the change of foot established, third position. And there's fourth position.
Okay, people, I'm going to launch this poll. Get ready to vote.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because it's always good to show this one in class sometimes. Can you identify the categories? Are we running that poll, Jay?
I'm running the poll now. I'll give you some time. Give you some time to figure it out.
Yeah, drum roll.
This is so fun. I love polls. Why is it so fun? I don't know.
That's good.
It's interactive, you guys.
And then we'll play it again and we'll go through that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll give you some more time. This is when you're checking your work. I totally understand. Give yourself some time.
So the first one is obviously it's CS, UF, SF, SS. The second one is CU, US, SF, SS. The third one is CU, UL, SB, SS. The third one is SF, US, SS, SF.
I don't know if that was helpful. It's like too many codes in my head. But honestly, this is so cool because it just tests, are you understanding what we're talking about? And if you learn from it, that's the best case scenario, right?
Okay, how's our results coming in?
All right, 51 people have voted.
Wow.
52, 53.
53.
Get your vote in. I'm going to keep it for another 25 seconds and let you vote.
Yeah, it's always good to bring this one up too, because then you can recognize them. You go, yeah, okay.
Yep, and just to see what's going on, right?
All right.
All right, I'm going to tell you the results before Ben tells us what the correct answer is. Okay.
Cool.
All right, so we're ending the poll now. Okay, so 2% of people voted for the fourth answer.
Okay.
Okay. 12% of people voted for the third answer.
Okay.
37% of people voted for the second answer.
Good.
And 49, which was the majority, voted for the first answer.
Okay, interesting. So number one, right? Okay. Well, let's do that here. Well, then let's go back and let's take a look at it.
Let's check it out.
Interesting. Okay, so let's go to this. So let's replay the whole clip and then we'll go through each DV category. I'm just going to let this play. It's on repeat mode. So we'll go, she's going to do a spiral into it. And I'll go at about 50% speed again. Okay, so it's 37-41. Was that what it was, Jay?
49% voted for the first one, which was the CS.
Okay, well, actually, to tell you the truth, this is more of a CU because of that core twist there. All right, so that's CU.
Okay.
And we've got US, upright, straight, or sideways. And let's keep going here. Come on.
That's so tricky. Okay,
It
we'll
is,
talk about
yeah.
that.
And we're going to go SF, sit front. And we're going to go SS, sit side.
This side.
Yeah.
The correct answer is which one, Ben?
That was actually that second one.
Number 2. So 30% of you got the correct answer. So I know that this is tricky. This is so tricky. So the CU means that one of the shoulders is actually upright and not just sideways, which is your CS. I know, so frustrating. And then Ben, talk about the difference between UF and US.
Right, well, US is that upright, straight, or sideways, right? So you can see she was straight. UF of the body's forward, right? So that's where, right?
It's confusing because people think you're talking about the free leg. So they think free leg's in front. So There it is.
There it is.
Right?
So anyway, that was running that poll there too. So that
Are
was
you guys annoyed?
So we're down to 5 minutes. We didn't even touch on fly stuff, but that, I mean, maybe this is what this one can be about there too.
We should do a quick flying spins, because we definitely got asked to see flying sit earlier in the.
Okay, well then let's do that.
Okay.
And let's talk about this too when we're doing flying spin, okay? And talking about bullets of a fly. Let's take a look at our FSSP. So this is flying sit. Am I on screen share there? Yeah, I am, right?
You are.
So one of the things that the skater's got to attain is full fly feature. So we want to see the full, if it's a fly sit, the leg retract all the way, the basic fly bullet. And then the skater needs to land, right, in that basic position within 2 revolutions for it to be counted as the flying spin. So this is an example of an FSSP 3 for a pre-novice developing skater. But you can see again that fly bullet was there as she took off. Now it happens very quickly. Like if I played it again full speed, this FSSP, up, tuck, down, right, and is again able to make it into a sit side DV. And it's 8 rotations, so that would be the level 3 at base value 2.6, and then they would obviously, hopefully, you know, work their GOE and dividends and off of that. So that's how that works there too. So that's that fly. Now, the interesting thing as well is if I did share another example here, flying camel, and this is where, you know, on the flying camel, we don't get that DV bullet. Oh, here's a flying sit again, but let's do flying camel. We don't get that DV for the fly or the fly feature for it, just because it kind of does step across, right? But if a skater does say a butterfly or a, you know, more difficult, sophisticated fly into a spin, that's where we can see that too. I'm going to show a death drop, and this is one that is a really common fly. This is again an FSSP. But you can see here that that's a very difficult fly position. You see how Kurt's going over, and then it's fly, bullet, he hits it, and then obviously lands into back sit at, well.
Although that's the most fun spin of all time, I swear.
Yeah.
Drop.
Yeah,
so
well, that's not
fun.
quite a skit, but at the same time, that was an arrow it didn't have to be. so you know, that's how far it's come there too. So, you know, there's a couple of examples of flying into spin. Obviously, you know, a lot of those are required now because we want to see flying spin as well as development, you know, and lots of really, really cool things too. So anyway.
I can't believe it. We're only 3 minutes away from the end. There's a couple questions that we will email probably directly and also answer, but just pop into the chat something you learned today, something new, even just like codes or positions or uninterrupted or something that resonated with you today. What show us in the chat what's working for you in this, because obviously we're new to doing this online, right? Let us know.
Yeah, and you know what, guys, that was a lot. It's been a lot of fun. I just think, you know, if we just have a conversation about it now and we go, okay, engage it and do all of the work that we're doing and gain more knowledge and keep our knowledge fresh, even if it's not getting more knowledge, you know, that has merit in times like this where we're maybe not on the ice doing all of it, but at least, you know, putting it out there and going, okay, this is what this is, and this is how this works. And if we see this, we should get some DV or GOE dividends in here. That's kind of fun. So
absolutely.
Anyway.
So someone's saying they've learned about codes.
Cool.
And the plus and minus stuff. Someone else understanding the codes much better. Woohoo! The next person, the sit spins. I've always had a hard time with them, so understanding them better. Awesome. Info on the non-basic spins, non-basic position. The time that each spin takes and the balance of the A-frame spin. Yes, I know, right? That darn A-frame. Knowing the deductions you can get with spins. Yes, camel upright. It is not clear. I know, I agree. It's a gray area. Camel front, your shoulders are totally front. Camel side, your shoulders are sideways. Camel upright, one of the shoulders is open to the sky.
Yeah.
Ceiling. Learning about upright position and DVs, so much to study still, and we'll still learn. That could be a whole session unto itself. I agree. Oh my gosh. Learning about new codes. Sorry, Ben, if you're trying to, there's so many comments. This is fantastic, you guys.
Yeah, and you know what, that was the thing too. It's kind of like, how do we fit some of this in for a full hour? And you know, it's been amazing doing it too, because yeah, this could go on. We could go into more stuff. So, you know, we just thought the Spin to Win one would be a fun one on this last Friday of April 2020 to be able to discuss and to share with all of you. So, hey, maybe we'll think about another one in the coming weeks, and we'll engage and have you guys on again. We just thank you all for engaging with us today. And some of these questions, if we didn't get to them, we're going to make another video and we're going to get those out to you too, because we've had some really good ones come in today, for sure.
100%. 100%. Now you know why the Spin to Win Masterclass is a whole darn day, 8 hours, so much. But to Ben's point, thank you so much for being here. We will put out another follow-up video, and send us a direct message on Facebook if you want us to do more webinars like this. You know, we're just trying to create stuff that is here for you. So thank you for being here, and here's to your skating success, right, Ben?
Yeah, here's to your skating success, and next time, spin to win in the GOE +1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Bye, guys.